Hello and welcome to DCS A10. In this video I'm going to demonstrate air-to-air refueling, which is by far the most difficult procedure that you can carry out in DCS A10 and in fact many simulators. There's a lot written on the forums and the pages about how to do this, and there's a lot of videos done, but the only real way of accomplishing air-to-air refueling is through practice, and it's basically practice and accurate flying, and things like accurate turns, pattern procedures, and even formation flying all aid to your ability to be able to fly very accurately when you're behind a tanker. So I see some people posting, and they've just maybe come in and they're new to DCS A10, and they jump in and very quickly try to refuel, and they wonder why they can't do it readily. It's because it does require time in the pit and quite a lot of discipline. So with that in mind, the video is going to be focused in two parts. The first part is the pre-contact phase and navigation to the tanker, picking it up and getting in behind it, and the second part will be the contact and the refueling phase. In order to contact the tanker, what we've got first to do is we've got to get the communication details, and generally this is provided by the mission maker in the briefing screen. And in this case you can see our KC support is on FM 150 and the TACAN is 46X. So we're going to set up our comms to be able to find the tanker, and we're going to do it by selecting a radio 150, and we can see the radio is already switched on because we started off in air. And we're going to change our TACAN to 46X, and we're going to change our mode switch to the AATR, which is the air-to-air transmit receive mode. We can hear the beeper telling us that we're actually receiving something. We're going to mute that, and then we're going to switch on our TACAN as the steer point. And remember, the steer point slaves to bearing point needle 1. You can see currently it's at 210, so we can now start moving towards that position. Before we do that, I'm going to contact the tanker and request refuel. Tanker 1, request refuel.
Arco, Hog 1-1, request rejoin. Hog 1-1, Arco, proceed to pre-contact at 13,000.
Okay, so our target altitude is Angels 13, and we're going to set ourselves up at around Angels 12 because we're better off just being a little bit lower in altitude, so that we're looking up at the silhouette against the backdrop of the sky rather than trying to look down on the water. It's easier to see the tanker. So we're pointing ourselves directly to the bearing point needle 1, which is where the tanker is out in space. There's a couple of different ways you can connect to it. You can connect or finding the tanker. You can find it through an AWACS call, or you can find it through sometimes the tanker will call out its bullseye position. Both of these have their limitations because they're only snapshots and they give the position at a point in time. The TACAN is the most foolproof way of doing it because it follows the tanker wherever it's going. And by looking at the distance meter, how quickly that's moving, you can give an indication as to whether the tanker is approaching you or flying away from you. So with that in mind, I'm going to make the pit a little bit more comfortable for being able to pick up the tanker by dimming the lights and switching on night vision. I'm also going to put on some of our contact lights, our anti-collision light and our position flashlight, and our nose lights. Now we're going to switch on night vision and dumb it down a little bit. Dim our hood so we can see it properly. That's good. And our MFCD. Okay, so our bearing point needle has drifted off to the right, which suggests that the tanker is either, well, it's moving from our right to left, so he's drifting away from us a little bit, and we can see our distance is 6 miles. At about, we're also down to 10,000, so we're a little bit too low. I'm going to increase our altitude a little bit. So we should be able to get a visual on it at around 3 or 4 miles. If we look out, and we can see it there in front of us, so you can see it's traversing left to right, probably maybe on a heading of north or 330. So we're going to push forward on the throttle, give ourselves full throttle, and let's start slotting in behind it. At this point, once you see it, it's important that you don't lose sight of it until you're close enough that you know where it is, because otherwise you're likely to lose sight of it and lose a bit of time trying to regain contact with it. So while we're doing this, let's switch off our weapons, keep it in view. You can see it looks like it's doing some, it looks like it's actually banking as part of its pattern, our racetrack circuit. So switched off all our, it's important to switch off all the weapon systems for safety reasons first of all, and secondly, particularly the pack system. It affects the trimming on the aircraft. We're going to open our fuel door, and that also affects trimming of the aircraft. It tends to nose up a little bit when you've done that. So once that's done, now I can start making an approach. I know that because I set the mission up with this tanker is moving at around 190 knots, and I'd recommend to any mission makers that they include the speed of the tanker in their briefing, as it gives an idea of the closure rate when you're getting up on the tanker. Otherwise it can take long and you're concerned that you might overshoot. So you can see we're at 253 and we're closing in, you know, at about 60 knots. So when I get at a reasonable distance here, a couple of miles out, I'm going to snap back the throttle and apply the air brakes. There we go, that looks pretty good. We don't want to overshoot the tanker at this stage. And we also don't want to slam into the back of it. So now I'm in position. I'm going to close off the brakes. Now we're starting to line up. I need to get maybe a little bit closer, and I'm going to request pre-contact. Ready, pre-contact?
Ready, pre-contact. Clear contact.
Okay, lights are on. We're in a good position. I'm currently about 1600 on fuel, so my target is 5000. I'm going to hack my clock so I get some idea of the time it's taken to refuel. It's unlikely that I'm going to be able to refuel on one connection, but that's no difficulty once you can refuel within a reasonable period of time. I think you're doing good. So the important thing at this stage is to start getting into position, trim the aircraft in as much as possible, and get a position on the hood so that you can see the boom as you're approaching. And always be conscious that it's easy to drop back. You're better off going too slow and dropping back than you are going too fast and slamming into the boom. So with that in mind, be prepared to drop back and make a recontact. And there's no difficulty there. Once you request the recontact using the nose wheel steering button. I've got a stick which allows me to adjust the sensitivity of the. I've gone too far now. It's gonna maybe have to stop talking for a little bit while I make the contact here. My stick allows me to adjust the sensitivity of the yaw and pitch. And it's important that you have low sensitivity set for your stick in order to make the contact. I generally apply a little bit of air brake. It's once again it's a preference in order to force my throttle a little bit further forward for the contact position, and this keeps me away from the detent, which tends to create a little bit of unsteadiness.
Contact. You're taking fuel. Disconnect. Return free contact.
Okay, I'm going to bring my HUD in a little bit more. Okay, he's starting to bank now. Need to bank with him. Forgot to set my recontact there, so just done it now.
Contact. You're taking fuel. Disconnect. Return free contact.
So the critical thing here is finding the sweet spot for the throttle.
Contact. You're taking fuel. Disconnect. Return free contact.
Gonna have to turn off the night vision. Dawn is breaking and it's saturating the night vision. I have the nose illumination there, so you can see the boom actually being illuminated just before it goes into the slot.
Contact. You're taking fuel. Disconnect. Return free contact. Contact. You're taking fuel. Disconnect. Return free contact.
Okay, we got 5,200, that's good enough. So that's just an example of how to refuel. As you can see, it took me several contact and recontacts, but once you don't fall too far out of position, it's actually reasonably straightforward to get back in position again. So thanks very much for watching. I'm going to call in my wingman now and let's see, does he do it? He generally can hook on with only one attempt to refuel at tanker 1.
2, hit the tanker.
Okay, I'm going to go over the top here because tanker's going to be banking left, let's say.
Cleared contact.
Tankers. Tankers. Up 1. Abort refuel.
Abort rejoin.
Okay, I had to disengage my join to the tanker in order to allow my wingman in. Okay, thank you for watching.